A specific tension exists at the center of modern Buddhist phenomenology, determining the exact status of the mind, or citta, after both enlightenment and physical death. To understand this tension, we have to start with the institutional orthodox baseline of Theravada Buddhism, which relies on centuries of textual commentary and systematic categorization. In the orthodox Abhidhamma model, the mind is defined as a rapid, fragmented succession of conditioned cognitive events. All experience is processed through these 5 aggregates: form, feeling, perception, fabrications, and consciousness. Within this framework, Nibbana represents samucceda marana, the non-residual cessation of these aggregates at death. When the conditions for rebirth are removed, the stream of consciousness simply ends. The Thai forest tradition emerged as a reform movement that shifted the focus from these scholastic models toward raw, experiential wilderness practice. Through intensive meditation, forest masters reported a finding that challenged the scholastic consensus: the existence of a primordial, indestructible knowing nature known as the Puru. They argue that this citta is not a localized soul, but an unsupported, objectless awareness that survives the dissolution of the 5 aggregates. This claim creates a conflict in Buddhist philosophy. It suggests either a form of empiricism that bypasses textual dogma, or a regression into the eternalist views that the Buddha explicitly rejected. Scholastic orthodoxy defends against the idea of a permanent self, using the concept of the bhavanga citta. The bhavanga is the passive, resting consciousness that maintains the life stream. While it is described as luminous during deep sleep, it is still viewed as a conditioned, momentary process. Forest masters contrast this with an unconditioned state, citing the Pali term vijnanam anadasanam, or consciousness without surface. They also point to the pavasara citta, the intrinsically luminous mind. In their model, this is not a momentary state of sleep, but the primary ground of awareness itself. Within this framework, defilements like greed or delusion are not intrinsic to the mind. They are agantuka, adventitious visitors that temporarily obscure the mind's natural clarity. They also look to the grammar of the early suttas, which often declare, "the citta was liberated." This raises a practical question. If the aggregates are discarded as not self, what exactly is it that becomes free? The scriptural justification for this position is frequently anchored in Udana 8.3, which describes an unborn, unbecome, and unfabricated dimension. By leveraging these specific textual anomalies, the forest tradition builds a defense for an experiential state that many scholars continue to equate with Hindu theology. The most common critique of the forest tradition is that its pure citta is phenomenologically identical to the Atman of Advaita Vedanta, the concept of a permanent universal witness. In Vedanta, the self is a central substratum. It is a cosmic substance from which the phenomenal world is projected. By contrast, the forest tradition describes the citta as characterized by emptiness, or sunyata. It is not a cosmic generator. It is simply a field of awareness devoid of any substantial self-nature. While Vedanta claims a metaphysical identity between the individual and the universe, the forest tradition focuses on an experiential non-duality, the direct cessation of the subject-object divide in meditation. Ajahn Mahabua offered a safeguard against the reification of this state. He warned that even the radiant knower found in deep meditation is the final hideout of fundamental ignorance. True realization requires the practitioner to turn their wisdom back on this knower and fully dismantle the centralized observer. Because the forest masters insist on destroying this central subject, their model bypasses the eternalist trap, aiming for a realization that is empty of both self and non-self. If we move past the comparisons to Hindu philosophy, we find striking structural similarities between the forest model and the architectures of Mahayana Buddhism. This layered model shows how schools expanded on the Abhidhamma's bhavanga. The Yogacara school added an 8th layer, the Alaya-Vijnana, or storehouse consciousness. The Alaya-Vijnana functions as an impersonal repository, carrying karmic seeds across lifetimes underneath active conscious experience. This active storage provides a vehicle for continuity that the passive Theravada bhavanga does not. The intersection with the Thai forest model occurs when the practitioner undergoes what is called a revulsion of the basis. Both systems require the karmic storehouse to be stripped away, leaving only unconditioned awareness. This luminous mind also aligns with the Mahayana concept of Tathagata Garbha, or Buddha nature. Both models describe this radiant nature as innate to all beings, but obscured by adventitious defilements. Despite being divided by sectarian codes, the experiential maps of the forest masters mirror these complex Mahayana architectures of consciousness. These parallels extend further into the esoteric systems of Tibetan Vajrayana and Zen. The Dzogchen system uses a structural division of mind that maps directly to the forest tradition. Sensory consciousness, or vijnana, is the equivalent of sems, the ordinary conceptual mind. The second half of the division connects the pure Citta to Rigpa, the Dzogchen term for primordial awareness. Masters like Ajahn Amaro have observed that both systems utilize this same structural split to reach an awareness that is devoid of both subjects and objects. In East Asian Zen, we find a similar assertion, that the single Citta is the same as the original mind taught by the Zen patriarchs. These consistent observations suggest that contemplative investigations yield similar findings regarding awareness, irrespective of the practitioner's cultural or scholastic background. This brings us back to the question at the heart of the divide. When the five aggregates permanently disintegrate at death, what actually remains? Forest masters describe this state as a non-stick realm. Sensory inputs fly into a vast space, dissolving before they find a surface. The conflict over the Citta is a battle of epistemologies. Scholasticism seeks to protect doctrine through models of cessation, while meditation masters seek to describe the dimensions of unconditioned experience. In this tradition, the pure Citta is not a resurrected ego or a cosmic deity. It is a state defined as Eka Citta, Eka Dhamma, one mind, one Dhamma. The deathless Citta represents the centerless deconstruction of the observer. It is the realization that when the knower is finally dismantled, only the knowing itself remains.